Welcome to another episode of The Next Generation. Today on the podcast, I have Tyler Schuster. And guys, I am so excited for this conversation. Tyler is a fellow podcast host, and she just has an amazing platform with her own podcast and just advocating for agriculture, and just her journey, her story is so stinking cool. And I cannot wait to just dive into more of this conversation that we're going to have today, and more about Tyler's story and just her life and everything else in between. So Tyler, I won't chit chat too long. I'll just let you take it away. Share a little bit about who you are, what you do, all the things.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. It's always fun to be on the other end of a podcast and getting to share really why I started the podcast and kind of all the things. But we have to go back to understand the hot mess express that is Tyler Schuster today. So I was raised on my family's ranch in Southwest Texas in a real rural community. I graduated high school with 47 people and was really active in 4-H and FFA, but never competed really at the state level till I was a senior in high school. And I had an ag teacher when I was a junior in high school say, like, you could be in agriculture and not ranch every day. And I was like, whoa, what? What do you mean? And he's like, you would be great at like ag policy or nonprofit work. And I was like, okay, sounds great. Because while I loved the ranch, I had listened to my mom complain about how hard she had to work every day and how she made no money every day. And I have expensive taste. I come by it honestly. And I was like, I can't live like this. And so from there, I kind of always knew I wanted to go to Tarleton. I rodeoed growing up. And if you rodeo in Texas, that's the rodeo school. And so a ton of my friends had been going there. We would go to Stephenville to rope. And I was just like, I want to go to Tarleton. And when we toured, it sealed the deal. So I went to Tarleton in 2017 to 2020. And when I was there, I got into everything. And I ended up being student body president. And I always tell people, if you don't like that Tarleton is D1, I didn't do that. But in reality, this is kind of tooting my own horn, but I am one of the reasons Tarleton is a Division I institution. I led the student referendum to get the votes to go D1, and then I led the institution for a year in the transition, and I currently sit on an NCAA committee for the institution to help them in this 5-year transition process they have. But from there, I was like, I don't know what to do, and I don't want to adult, and I don't recommend this, but I went to grad school, and so I knew the chancellor at Texas A&M, and he offered me a gig. I just couldn't pass up to go to A&M and pursue a master's, and so my undergrad is in Ag Services and Development, a pretty general ag degree. My master's is in nothing agriculture. It's in public service and administration. And I studied the government and nonprofits. I've always thought since I was about 18, I wanted to get into politics. And I eventually hope to run for ag commissioner in the state of Texas. And that's still my goal to this day. And during grad school was terrible. I don't recommend doing school during COVID, but I survived. We all survived. And I had to have an internship and do a language immersion. And if you know me, I'm not learning another language. Like, I lived on the border and I still don't know Spanish. Like, I can order off a Mexican food restaurant and ask you where the bathroom is, and that's about it. So I was fortunate enough to get an intern with Texas and Southwestern cattle raisers, and I basically didn't give them a choice but to hire me. So in the middle of my internship, I just told the CEO, I said, I work for the chancellor and I am way more capable than stuffing packets for football games. And I super appreciate, he basically paid me to do my homework because there's no way I could have worked in grad school if I didn't get to have done my homework at work a lot. And I said, I can work for you remote. If you'll pay me $15 an hour, give me computer monitors, and give me a Wi-Fi stipend, I'll work for you. And so I pretty much, if you know me, I don't ask, I tell. So that's, I stayed on with cattle raisers after my internship and worked for them for 2 semesters remote. I worked about 30 hours a week, started managing their interns, and then February rolled around and I was like, I gotta get a job. Like, my parents are cutting me off May 15th. Like, they are moving on. I've got to move on. And so I was telling my boss at cattle raisers, I was like, yeah, I'm applying for these jobs. Would you be a reference? If you see anything, let me know. And she's like, yeah, sure. And one day she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be in town. Is there any way you'd want to go drink a beer and grab a burger?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so we went and drank a beer and ate a burger. And she's like, "By the way, here's my job offer." And I was like, "You've been leading me on. Like, here I've been like, I'm like in the Denver airport crying to her on the phone. I flew out to Denver for an interview and I was like, it was terrible. They were just like rude. And I can't work here. I don't want to move to Denver. I didn't really want to, but I was like, if the job was good enough, I could do it." And she knew the whole time she was going to offer me a job. So she offered me a job, and then I moved to Fort Worth from there, and uh, started day one. I started full time. Somebody at Cattle Raisers had a baby, one of my actually really good friends now. And so I took over essentially as the executive director of events for 3 months. Lived in a whirlwind, worked like 80 hours a week, oversaw interns, did my job plus her job. And looking back, they are insane for trusting a 23-year-old girl fresh out of school to run an events department for a 26,000 plus member organization. But it was the best launch pad for my career. It was just like baptism by fire. You figure it out, and it really led me to cultivating some really important relationships at cattle raisers. So I started there in education. I'm really passionate about agriculture. I kind of just fell into the beef industry. Like, my family does raise cattle, but I wasn't this like gung-ho advocate gonna stay in the industry forever. And I just kind of fell into cattle raisers and loved it, and eat beef became half my identity. I mean, it really is essentially what happened. So I started planning some stuff for youth. We had a huge initiative to start stuff for people under 40, and I took that on kind of personally and professionally. So while I was at Cattle Raisers, I eventually moved into leadership development, and my role was to craft things for, I always said, potty train to 40. I'm happy to take your kids after they're potty trained. Before then, I'm not your girl. And worked on all kinds of things. I was able to lead cattle raisers. I had created 3 programs, ran a successful internship program. We had 12 interns, like full-time semester length throughout the year, and then 25 to 30 for our convention. And I oversaw all of them. And so I obviously really have a heart for college students. And people need to be loved on when they don't know what they're doing with their life. And people loved on me so well when I didn't know what I was doing with my life. Like, I had a college professor who I cried in his office one day, and he was like, "I think you need to go home and take a nap. Why don't you skip class? I won't count it against you." And then the next day he was like, "Okay, let's talk about what you think you might want to do. Here's some people you need to call." And he and another professor just poured into me so well and it was so impactful that I just love college kids. And loved my time at Cattle Raisers, had grown, was leading great efforts. We had started a foundation while I was there, and I was helping with it. And I just loved Fort Worth. I took Fort Worth for everything it was. But an opportunity came up here at Texas Tech. So I now live in Lubbock, and have put the West Texas in my West Texas grandma aesthetic. And the opportunity to come be a fundraiser for their College of Ag came to me, and I couldn't pass it up. I was looking for a next step, and everyone knows that I'm very honest. I left my last job very well. We're all on great terms, but I was kind of looking for my next challenge. When you work in a small association like that, really, unless someone leaves, you can't move up. And not everyone is meant to climb a corporate ladder, but I am. And I love the thrill of chasing what's next and the promotion and the titles. And I know you shouldn't get caught up in all of that, but I do. And I think a lot of that has to do with, like, I'm a young single woman. And so for me right now, my career isn't my identity, but it is a huge chunk of who I am. So I moved to Lubbock. I had been here like 3 times my whole life, spent like 2 nights here, had no idea, came for my final interview, looked at the house I live in now. So I moved here pretty blind, and I moved here very open is what I tell people. Like, I'm like, "Okay, God, whatever you have in store for me here, my hands are open. Whether it's 3 years or 30 years, I'm here for it." And obviously I love my job and my coworkers, and that's a huge chunk of why I moved here. But the other portion really was if I want to lead the state as the ag commissioner someday, I need to have lived in different areas of the state. I need to know what the people in different areas are. And so I've done South Texas, I've done DFW. Now let me do West Texas. And the people here are unlike anything I've ever experienced. And they say they're so nice because there's nothing else out here. And if they were rude, then it would be miserable to live here. But the people here are amazing. Nobody loves Red Raiders like Red Raiders love Red Raiders. I'm obviously not a Red Raider. I've embraced it. I loved Red before I moved here. I throw my guns up, I say wreck 'em, and I really think I'm having so much fun. I tell people, like, I kind of got bogged down in the doing of the job, and moving here was just a clean slate. And nobody reports to me, so I'm not in charge of anybody. That won't be forever in my life, but I'm having the best time only worrying about myself. So I'm getting to chase my professional career in fundraising, but so many other aspects of my life have gotten to take off. My podcast, my consulting, my coaching, my speaking. So on top of like working the 8 to 5, I do all those things. And so I started basically famous in grad school 3 years ago with my sister. And then eventually I joke we got divorced. I moved out. I took the KitchenAid mixer and the podcast, and she got the Roomba vacuum. So I started the podcast just to interview people in my life who are basically famous to me. I felt like so many people in my life had such cool stories and they never had a platform to share them on. And so once the divorce happened, the focus had really kind of always just been people famous in our life. And then when I took it over solely, it became really just women in agriculture. I do interview a few guys here and there. They have to be basically super impressive to make me want to. Women need the stage, and I'm here. I've created one for them, and so I do interview a few guys here and there, but it's mostly women in agri and western, and we just chat because so many people 18 to 25 have no idea what they want to do, and they have no idea what's out there. If you would have told me at 18 I would have gone and worked at cattle raisers and leadership development, I would have been like, what the heck? And then now if you had told me I'd come be a fundraiser in Lubbock, I would have been like, no. I just honestly didn't know these careers existed, but they fit my personality so well. And so just to showcase people, and then I do some consulting and coaching and speaking, and I'm kind of everywhere. I'm consider myself a content creator. I'm on all the apps and I stay busy. I love it that way. It keeps me out of trouble. I don't even have a dog. So I'm just literally committed to eating beef and I'm doing my own thing. And that is like the longest version of tell me about yourself because I'm a yip yapper.
I'm here for it. I absolutely stinking love it. And guys, if you don't follow Tyler on like all the social media platforms, all of her links will be down below. Y'all better go do that because she's a hoot and a half. Her personality shines on social media, especially on TikTok. Just chef's kiss. Amazing. I love it. Can you
I think social media is fun.
Yes,
it's social media
is a blast. I absolutely love it. I love how you just show up so authentically you, and I feel like you do that in a lot of different aspects of your life, extremely well. So I would love to hear a little bit more just about like that, going from the 18-year-old college girl crying in her professor's office to like not knowing what the heck you're going to do with your life to now like being where you are right now, or not even just where you are right now, but ending up at cattle raisers. And that season of uncertainty and that season of growth and that season of transition, all of those things. We have a lot of young college students that listen to this podcast, and I know that a lot of them are probably in that situation, that they're crying to their college professors or like they're like shaking their head in a door frame like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Can you just kind of speak to them? What advice do you have for those seasons of life and those situations, just different things like that?
Well, the good news is nobody has it figured out. I don't have it figured out. Like, yes, I have a job and I have passions and hobbies outside of work I love, but I don't have it figured out. I can't tell you where I'm going to be in 5 years. I think that's the beauty of life. God can change your season so quickly, and it's just a season. And I always tell people, like, cattle raisers was a dream job. It was what most 18 to 20-year-old girls probably would love to do. but then the dream changed, and that's okay. Like, it's meant to evolve. And you have to know, like, life happens for seasons and things happen for a reason in those seasons. And so, like, it was a great season and it was so good to me and I loved it, but it was like time for growth and time for change. And when there is uncertainty, like, that's when things happen in your life. Like, that's when God is moving, that's when your career is moving. And I think in those times, like, you just have to rely on who you are and your people. Like, I could call my sister and be like, oh my God, my life is in shambles. And she would be like, Tyler, get up off the floor, go put some lipstick on and move. Like, you have to have some people in your life to speak tough love into you. And I have those people. And I am that person for a lot of people. Like, I am not going to be sympathetic. We are going to talk through the situation and how to move past it. So you've got to surround yourself with people who have been where you're going, or they're where you hope to eventually be, and they can speak life into you and help you in that time. And so just really building a community and a network and a sense of people you can rely on. I just remember I'm a super self-confident person. I've always been. I joke that, like, God didn't make me skinny because he knew I'd be out of control. Like, he had to knock me down a peg somewhere, and that's like what he knew. Because I'm a lot. I know I'm a lot. I'm really confident in who I am. I'm not intimidated by men, which is, it's hard in our industry. We're in a male dominated field. And if my name is on a seat at that table, I know damn well I'm supposed to be there. And a lot of people can't say that. And so that was a huge chunk of 18-year-old Tyler getting the job 22-year-old Tyler wanted. Was like, I knew I was supposed to be there. I didn't question if I was supposed to be there. And a lot of people do. And that's leading back to community. Like, who in your life is telling you you're meant to be there? Who in your life can speak into you and say, okay, you're there for a reason? My best friends are 43 and 50, because they've lived life. And when we sit around my coffee table and drink coffee, we don't talk about boys and drama. We talk about my goals and where I want to be. And, like, those are people I want in my life. I mean, truly, my best friend in Lubbock is 43. She has a daughter. But she comes over and she's like, okay, Tyler, what are you going to do about this? And I'm like, okay, Sarah, yeah, you're right. And my mentor in Fort Worth just turned 50. And I remember the first time we sat down, she looked at me and she said, what's wrong in your life? She didn't say, hey, I'm Lorinda, this is what I do. I mean, she looked like I got assigned her. I didn't even pick her, and it was the greatest thing ever. In Cowgirls and Cocktails, they did a mentorship program, and I got her. But she set me down in January, and she said, "What's wrong with your life?" And it was like, "Here's where I'm at." And she had outsider's perspective. She had never heard about where I was in my career, my ambitions. And she was like, okay, blah, 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 blah. Here's what you're going to do, And she's the whole reason I have a consulting business now. She was like, people would pay you to help them. Like, you have wisdom. And I was like, really? Are you sure? I'm like 12. And so I just have put people in my life who have really just pushed me forward. And my parents and my family are super supportive, but they're never going to look you in the eye and be like, you need to walk away from that.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, oh, well, do what makes you feel good. And the mentors in my life are like, you need to walk away from that, or you need to run towards that, or you need to latch onto that. And I've always had people like that. Growing up, her name was Kyla Dotson. She was the Mary Kay lady growing up, drove the pink caddy and everything. And I ended up working for her the summer after I graduated high school and the summer after I graduated from college. And I filed, I drove, I picked up her kids, I ordered school supplies. Like, I kind of did everything. They owned a title company. But she was kind of one of those people who was like, here are some books you need to be reading. Here are some podcasts you need to be listening to. And so she really laid the foundation for me of, like, seeking professional development personally and, like, seeking out resources. And so I've just really always surrounded myself with people who can lead me in the direction I want to go. So if you're 18 and you're like, I don't have that person in my life, great, go find them. Like, I have never said no to anyone. I answer all DMs. I answer my email really well. I created a website so people can get to me super easily, and so go find someone who you admire what they do and just ask them for 15 or 20 minutes. Like, I love a good coffee connection over Zoom or a virtual happy hour. And I think those are easy ways to find people. You never go to someone and you're like, mentor me. Like, that's just not really how it works. Like, you have to kind of force yourself upon them and give them no choice. I have somebody here in Lubbock that, like, I just emailed her and I was like, hey, I've heard a lot about you. Like, could we have lunch? And she straight up told me, like, I wasn't going to respond to you. But then another one of our coworkers was like, you really should meet this girl. She's pretty cool. And so now, like, I don't give her a choice. I'm like, great, when are we doing coffee or lunch this month? And when you're 18, you might not be at the point. I'm to the point, I'm like, and I'll buy the coffee or the lunch.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it to your office. Like, I'm giving people no excuse but to meet with me, and so I have found people, and you just, like, you don't give them a choice, and you're like, okay. Lorinda didn't get a choice. We were matched from Cowgirls and Cocktails mentorship program, and it was only a 3-month program, but she didn't get a choice when it ended. We have kept this going. I don't know if she knows that, but I'm like texting her, and we send a lot of DMs back and forth on Instagram of things we see that we think the other would enjoy, so it's just like, while that formally ended, I didn't let it end. So find people and latch onto them. And it might not be a whole tribe. I'm fortunate I have a whole tribe. Like, I have a group of friends in their upper 20s and 30s that they're on my board of directors, is what I call it. I have a board of directors. Not everyone gets an opinion on my life. There's about 8 people who do. They sit on my board of directors, and you can be demoted at any time. The board can change at any time. So I have like 3 friends who are in like their upper 20s and 30s. Then I have 3 friends who are in their 40s and 50s. And then my mother and sister. I don't know that they'll ever get demoted. They sit on the board. They're like, when you get, like, as a faculty member, when you get promoted, where like you get tenured. They're tenured. They can't get kicked off. And so you might not have a board of directors. That's okay. But I think it's good to find somebody in your life, not your mother, to speak into it. Your mom's going to tell you what you want to hear. My mom, she might tell me my outfit looks terrible, but she is not going to tell me I should not take a job. Like, she would just be like, well, you do what you think you need to do, or if it's more money, it pays the bills, and she's going to coddle me in a sense. And my mom is mean. I'll be honest. My parents are like tough love people, but I know that if I want to be pumped up, I go to my mom and my sister.
Yep.
If I want the truth, I go to the other 6 board of directors. And we don't vote. They don't know this, but we kind of vote on my life decisions. Like, I survey the crowd, and I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking about this. And they just are all like super rock stars in their own realm. My 20s and 30s, the 3 of them all work in the boot world. Like,
Love
so
that.
super random. They work in Western apparel. My friend that lives here owns a soil company. Lorinda owns Lucky Chuck. She used to own Gypsy Soul, like the big chunky sandals. Kyla Dotson is a realtor, so they're not even all in ag. But I can go to them, and there's a ton of other people I know I could pick up the phone and call anytime, because I built my network to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think there's just so much power in like who you choose to surround yourself with. I heard this quote a long time ago that you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. And that absolutely rocked my world as a young college student and someone looking to like better themselves professionally, just like grow and advance themselves. And I kind of looked around and I was like, oh, okay, so these are the 5 people that I'm spending the most time with. Shit. I was like, oh no, like, not that like I had the worst friends in the world, but I didn't necessarily want to be where they were going. Like, that's not where I wanted to end up. So I had to do like a real like hard survey look on my own life of be like, okay, we need to reevaluate this plan and find great mentors and find people to push me and help me grow, and not people that are just going to, they're, it's great to have people that are in the same season of your life that like you can just do life with, and they're not a mentor, they're not a mentee, but at the same time, like you need those people that are going to be like, okay, like get out, run now, like you need to
Yeah.
switch this job, you need to do this, you need like this, tell me what's wrong with your life, like Lorinda said. Things
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, if I ever got a boyfriend and thought I was going to marry him, I would take him to Lorinda. Like, that would be one of their tests. I would be like, can you pass Lowe's test? Like,
Yes.
because I trust her. But this is also, know that this is not me saying you can't have friends in your life who aren't just like a fun, good time.
Yeah.
You just have to know that like they're not going to speak life into you, and that's okay. My bestest friends from the 5th grade, there's 5 of us. We text every day, we Snapchat, we hang out once or twice a year because we kind of live everywhere. They're not the people I call for career advice, but I love them dearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we are going to go to the concert and we're going to go drink wine together and we have a great time. But I know that I'm not going to go to them when I'm like, okay, so I have this client at work and I don't know what to do about it. Like, no, I'm going to go to them and I'm going to be like, I went on this terrible date with somebody I met off Hinge and we're going to laugh about it, you know, and you have to have those people in your life too. So know that like, you don't just have to surround yourself with these people who are big, powerful, speak life into you. You also need people in your life who are fun. They're in the
Yeah.
same season of life as you. And I'm obviously really like drawn to people in the same season of life as me. I have a ton of single friends because it's easier to do life with people who also aren't responsible for tiny humans or somebody else, you know?
Yes.
And then one day, if I get to the point where somebody else and tiny humans are a possibility, I'm going to have to find me some friends with significant others and tiny humans because I'm going to need someone to call when I don't know what to do with throwing up kid. So it's just like, you find people too who are doing life. And I've always said people are in your life for a season and a reason. Some seasons last longer. Like, so I've had my friends since 5th grade. 3 of the 5 I've known since kindergarten, or birth essentially. I had like a super great friend in college and undergrad. I only know what she's doing based on social media. We don't keep up anymore. You know, so it's just like she was a great friend in the season I needed her. We had a lot of fun. I'm super pumped for her. She's a nurse now, married. And I'm just like, cool, go you. You know, I don't beat myself up over it because it ended, but have fun friends too. Don't think you just have to have serious do business friends because I could talk you in and out of anything, but I could also go drink a margarita with you. So you got to
It's
have
important
both.
to have balance.
It
Balance
is.
is very important when you're like evaluating just your community and who you're choosing to surround yourself with. I think like that's the first step. Like maybe you can like do 3 tiers in your life of like people that are a good time, people that like you're feeding life into, and then people that are feeding life into you. And that like you're looking at them and you're like, I would be okay with sitting in the chair that you are in right now. Like, I want my life to look like this. I want my life to look like that. And you're seeking these people out. And maybe you just need to sit down and do an evaluation of the areas that you're spending the most time in. And you know what? If you're sitting in a situation and you're like, I have a terrible community. I don't even know where to get started. I moved to a new town. I did this. I did that. Like I blank slate, all of these things. My biggest suggestion is like just plugging into different, like find your local town and then plug into professional development programs that that town has. Like here in Manhattan, we have like the Hype program. We have like some amazing church programs for young adults, like just different things like that, that like helped me as a young adult get plugged in. But then like if you're in the Fort Worth area, they've got the amazing things like Cowgirls and Cocktails. You've got Ag Women Connect. You've got a bunch of other things that like you can get connected and plugged into where you can approach and find new people to surround yourself with.
One, I've always said every time I've moved, once I have found a church I like, things really fall into place.
Yeah.
Like I feel like once I have found a church community I can thrive in, I tend to find friends. I tend to like it just comes together. I really didn't really know anyone when I moved to Fort Worth. I knew very few people when I moved to Lubbock. And this is not me saying I moved and it was all great. Weeks 2 and 3 were terrible. I'm very honest about that. Like I think I
Yeah.
sat on my couch and cried every night because I was like, I went from having a social life 7 nights a week to sitting at home doing nothing and not knowing anybody to call to go like have a meal with.
Yeah.
And then I was like, girl, this is not you. And I simply started, I reached out to one person a month that I know off the internet. My mom doesn't think you should go meet people you meet off the internet in public, but I just feel like I have a good gauge and I would be like, creeper, not going to go meet with them. But I feel like when you follow someone for so long on social media, you feel like you
Yeah,
know
you
them.
know
You know
them.
if you're
Yeah,
safe or not.
exactly.
Like, so I literally just started DMing people and I was like, hey, I moved to Lubbock. I would love to grab coffee or I'd love to grab dinner. And I challenged myself once a month to do that with someone new.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of started. And I did the same thing in Fort Worth. Like it was just kind of like, okay, I'm going to go to lunch with you. And then you're going to connect me to two people you know. And then it grows. And so you might not know anybody where you're moving. You might be graduating college and moving to a town and you have no idea. One, I think, find a church home. Always a great start. But then get connected in a professional development group. And if you're struggling in person, there's so many things online. Like I personally host virtual happy hour, not monthly. It's kind of bi-monthly. Just depends on my schedule. Anyone's welcome. And the cool thing is you get to meet my friends. I get to meet people who followed me who I've never met. And we all get to connect. So I did one in September and Heather Welper and I are great friends. We went to college together. She jumped on and there was a college girl on and she was like, I really need to do a mock interview to prep for, she's in contention for internships with Alanco and Merck. So big companies, like we have talked about these internships could be life changing for her. And so Heather was like, I'll do a mock interview for you. You know, all because we all hopped on a Zoom call and I was like, okay, everybody meet each other. These are my friends, you know, and it didn't happen in person. So there's also things online you can be doing to connect with people. Ag Women Connect, they do coffee connection. There's all kinds of things, you know, if you look for them to get connected.
Yeah, absolutely. I attribute a lot of my success in my young 20s and just like as soon as I graduated college and even like in my college years, just my success through there and then building a business and everything like that to the community and the connections that I built. Like it's really just who I evaluated and started to surround myself with. And a lot of them guys, like sometimes it was like pointing people out of a crowd and be like, I want to be friends with you. And then sometimes it was just happy little accidents. And then now like I can imagine my life without these friends. And it's or just like imagine my life without these connections and network and people that have like will be my references or will be the people that will recommend my business to other people and stuff like that. And it's just so important to expand that network and expand those connections and then like stay plugged in with those connections too, because I've so many times when I was in my younger 20s I would like go to these networking events and I would have an amazing time with so many people. And I'm a very extroverted person. I am a find people in the room that aren't talking to someone and I'm going to go make a friend and I'm going to talk to you type of thing. And I'd make these amazing connections but then not follow up. And if you don't follow
Mm-hmm.
up, then they pretty quickly just kind of like dwindle off to an association rather than a connection. And so I think that that's another aspect that's so important to just continue to remember to not, you don't have to like always be texting these people, but maybe you're just like liking their Instagram stories or you're like just showing up as like a person that's supporting their life. And then they can do that for you in return too.
Well, you bring up a great point. One of the things I always like harp on people is I'm like, how are you showing up?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've been taught networking is this stiff, sweaty, you get anxious interaction, and that's
Yeah.
not how I view
Mm-hmm.
networking. I'm viewing it as like, what can I do for you? Literally last night at midnight at Whataburger, I met a guy and he was talking about his daughter. She's wanting to play volleyball in college. And I was like, great, I'm really good friends with the recruiter for Tarleton's volleyball team. Here's my cell phone number. Like
That's
I met
amazing.
this dude who has a 16-year-old daughter in Whataburger with my parents last night and was like, "Here you go." And I always say though, how are you showing that? Because you don't just have to show up in person or via text or phone call. It's liking post on LinkedIn. It's posting on LinkedIn. It's commenting on people's stuff. Maybe they're on a podcast and you commented that you listened and here was your takeaway. Or I have a lot of friends who are cool and they're super smart and they write a lot of great things. And I'm like, they get published. So you read it and you're like, wow, what a great article, you know? And it's things like that. What you see in person with me is what you get online because I'm consistent and I'm always showing up. And I'm not one of those people who my profile picture looks nothing like me because it's from 10 years ago. Like, it's current. I'm going to comment on your post. I'm a poster myself. Not everyone is, but you can still show up without posting. But like, you are not going to forget who I am because I am coming across your feed continually.
All the time. Every single day. Every single day. I'm like, I see Tyler's little like blip on my Instagram stories and I'm like, oh, what's Tyler up to today? Like I would trust Tyler to pick me up from the airport and I don't even know this woman, guys. Like, this is the first time we're like even meeting virtually.
I would happily do it, you know? And so it's hard. Showing up consistently online is work.
Yeah.
You know, and what I put into TikTok is way different than what I put on LinkedIn, but I'm consistent in both.
Yeah.
Like, I try to post on LinkedIn once or twice a week. I'm active every single day. I try to post on TikTok when I'm like doing my best 3 times a day, which is insane and it's a lot of work. But I also am not someone who edits my videos on TikTok. Like, so I'm just like, okay, post. Like, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to post it. I post on my Instagram story 6 to 10 times a day. Like, I've chosen to be that out living though, because when we're in public, my family cringes, but I love when people come up and they're like, oh my God, you're Tyler. I follow you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm Tyler. Like, who are you? Great to meet you. And it happens a lot around my family. And it's always like so funny. They're awkward about it, you know, but my family has also learned like we are not doing anything and I'm not documenting it. Yeah. So you better smile for the selfie now and get over it, or make the TikTok video and get over it, because that's how I choose to live. Everybody else in my family, you would not know what the hell they do if I was not alive. Like, my sister posts maybe twice a year. I swear. Okay, my brother got married September 2023. I don't think he's posted since. Like, his wife will post and he'll share, but he doesn't post. My mom doesn't even have Instagram. She barely knows how to use Facebook. And when she posts things, it's like the most it's like a meme, and it's like, you know, the farmer feeding his cows, and you're like, Donna, what are you doing? And then my dad is the county judge, so he posts quite a bit like on his judge page, but not as personal. And, you know, but it's like the county pool's open. Like, you would have no idea what anybody else in my family was doing if I wasn't telling you all. They don't appreciate that, but I know you all. Like, half the people who follow me for my mother, you know. I mean, this week she tried to set me up. So, like, it's just like, that's how I choose to live. You might not choose to live that way, but you can still show up. Like, my sister has a great work network because she continually shows up. And even though she doesn't post on LinkedIn, she's active, and she is sending you an email on your birthday or a text message, or, you know, when my sister does have some weird rules about coworkers and social media. I don't care. Add me. Like, I'm going to comment when your grandkid's born, and I'm going to think it's the greatest thing ever. You know, but you can comment congrats when they get married, or happy birthday, or if they have a kid and it's their kid's birthday, happy birthday to their kid. And now that I work in fundraising, you know, it really is like, you have to build a connection with someone before you can sit down in front of them and say, will you basically give me all your money?
Yep.
And so it's like, when they post their grandkid, I'm commenting. I'm like, oh my God, little John looks so great up there. Love his pony, you know?
Yeah.
Because I want them to know I'm invested in their life as well. And like, while we are working on a transaction that's going to transform someone's life, we're building a friendship too. We're not fundraising, we're friend raising. So I want to show up to them too. And not being a red raider, it's kind of even more important that I can show my loyalty to the university and the brand, essentially. Because I wear an Aggie ring every day to work. I have a Tarleton and A&M diploma hanging in my office. There are no double T things anywhere. So you're not walking into my office and being like, this girl loves Texas Tech, you know? So I then have to prove to people I do, and I do it through showing up.
hmm And I think like a lot of that comes from building that confidence that we kind of like touched on earlier. And like if you weren't born out of your mother's womb screaming, hooting, and hollering, pointing people out like Tyler and I were, I get you. My husband is not that way. He would rather just like kind of sit back and absorb conversations and be the introvert and all of those sorts of things. But it's still like walking into a room with confidence, walking into conversations with confidence, and like knowing that like God put you exactly where you are because he meant for you to be there. Like you aren't here by accident. You aren't in that room by accident. You may walk into that room and be like, I am so underqualified to be in this room, but darn it, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to absorb and I'm going to make the connections anyway because God put me in this room, even if I feel underqualified. You are like the queen of confidence, Tyler. I would love to hear just like your advice for people of building that and sustaining it and just kind of like growing on that confidence too.
Yeah, well, I was born with a lot. My parents can tell you we lived in town till I was 7, and when they pissed me off, I would like run away essentially. I would march in my Barbie heels to my neighbor's house, and she would feed me a tortilla, and then I would cool off my tortilla. The carbs did me well. I'm a good carb girl, and then I would march back home. And like one time, my mom would tell you, we live kind of in a gated community. The security guard called her and was like, "Your daughter's at the front gate." Like, she's like, "I'll come get her." And so I've always been very strong-willed, had my own
Uh-huh.
opinions, but I know my sister is not someone who naturally could walk into a room and I'm going to leave knowing everyone. Everyone is a friend. I always tell people I don't know a stranger. I only know friends.
Yes.
But I think something I've done, even though I have a lot of self confidence, is I've really invested in what I listen to and read.
Mm-hmm.
So, and who I follow. Like, I love Mel Robbins.
Yes.
And, I listen to her podcast. I follow her on social. And so I am seeing and reading things that like make me feel better as a person. One of my favorite books, I wouldn't say necessarily is confidence related, but Leadership is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. It's just like a solid read. And it talks about why you have to be vulnerable with people to build confidence in each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the same thing. Like, you have to be willing to be vulnerable with yourself to build your own self confidence, but you can take steps to do that. I have a great therapist. Like, I'm a mentally sane person. My family is pretty normal. They're so freaking weird, but they're pretty normal. I always tell people, like, nothing in my life, like, there has not been this like catastrophic thing that is the reason I need to go to therapy. I'm just a normal person who has feelings. So I go to therapy and I
Mm-hmm.
love it because I love sitting down with someone, talking through a situation or whatever it may be, and they have the skill set and tools to like help me work through it or point me in the direction of resources that would work for me. Something I did with my therapist is we built a house is what it was called. And you write down who is the foundation of your life, and then like who are the people in your life holding you up, and then who are the people in your life who protect you, and like seeing who your people are. And all of that has just like made me more confident in who I am, and I am better able to process my own emotions and to work through things because I've invested in that. And therapy is a financial investment. I have made the sacrifice to attend consistently for over 2 years. Um, and I get that, and not everyone can make that. I think that's the greatness of the internet. Like, so many podcasts, books, people are out there who produce content that is so great for those things. And I stand in front of the mirror and I tell myself I'm strong and I tell myself I'm capable. And some days I tell myself I look damn good because I love the outfit I have on. And all of those, like I speak good things into my life. I have written on my mirror before Bible verses and the words like, I am beautiful, I am strong. And I've really switched the narrative in my head. Like, I always say I have thick thighs with two C's. Like, I'm not a tiny girl, but like, I think like, man, I'm so glad God gave me these size when we're working calves and I've got one pinned up against the shoe in between my legs and I'm fixing to tag it,
Yes.
and like I speak positively about my body to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And something I'm really big on, I love fashion. And I love to wear a good wild rag and a good hat. And when you look good, you feel good, you perform good. And so I take the time the night before I plan out what I'm going to wear typically on Sundays, but the night before I'm going to lay out what I'm going to wear. Now, I'm a girl. There are mornings I put it on and I'm like, this looks terrible. And I want to throw the whole outfit in the garbage and we start over. But I am intentional about what I wear.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to style my body and what looks good on my body type. And if you saw me in public, like you're probably going to see me in a blazer, a wild rag, and a hat. And that's my look. Like I have crafted my signature look and I feel good in it.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have to question your outfit, it takes like one whole part of your brain out for the day. Like I wore a shirt the other day and I was just so worried about the buttons. And I was like, what if it comes unbuttoned? I literally came home and changed because I was sitting at my desk stressing over this beautiful white shirt that I'm like, these little fake buttons are not going to hold it together. Why don't I just go home and put a shirt on I know I love?
Yeah.
And so when I look good, I'm just so confident in how I show up. It just like eliminates part of the questioning. Like I'll always tell people it's better to be over than underdressed.
Yes.
And who cares if you're overdressed? No one's going to leave and be like, oh my God, like I literally wore a hat the other day to this meeting of all these important people and I was the only person in there in one. And this week they were like, we loved your hat. We were so glad you wore it. Where is it this week? And then I had to explain like, well, I just had surgery. I'm trying to recover. I'm not like a hat and real pants are not on the agenda right now. Like stretchy
Yes.
pants only, but feeling confident in my outfit is so important to me. And I do probably take more time than your average person picking out what she's going to wear to work. But my coworkers will tell you, like, very rarely do I not walk in the door and it's fire. Like, I am putting my best foot forward. I'm big on if you're going to be a makeup wearer, be a makeup wearer. You
Yeah.
don't have to be one, but if you're going to be one, be one. I joked when I worked at cattle raisers, like when you get interns, the first week they're all made up and they're excited. And then by like week 3, they come in with no makeup and you're like, who are you? What? And like you double take, so just be consistent too in what you
Mm-hmm.
do. And my full face of makeup I wear every day is glam. For some people, I'm aware. Like that's what they wear when they're in a wedding.
Yeah.
When I'm in a wedding, it's taken up another level. That's okay. That's me. My coworkers wouldn't even look at me twice if I showed up with fake eyelashes on. Like they would just be like, "Oh, there's Tyler,"
Yeah.
because I'm consistent in how I show up. So when you want to be confident in who you are and who you're showing up as, when you can show up consistently in appearance, and then you're confident in what you're wearing, you're eliminating a whole step of the
Mm-hmm.
second guessing and the doubt. And then all you have to do is focus on the task at hand. And when you can prep for the task at hand, you show up even better.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to be confident in the workplace, sometimes you have to manage up. And for me, that looks like I make the agenda for my meeting with my boss.
Yeah.
And I say, here are the things I need us to talk about this week so I can successfully implement them next week or craft them. Or now that I'm in fundraising, I might be going to ask someone for money and I might need to sit down with my boss. My boss is a guy now. Big difference in working for a guy and a girl, everybody, not in a bad way. It's just very different. And I might go to him and I might have to say, okay, Matt, how would you approach this?
Yeah.
But I have to be proactive and manage up in the sense that I say, okay, I'm coming to you with this tomorrow. Here's what we're going to talk about. Because we can get distracted. We're both chatters, and we could end up talking about Texas Tech football team for an hour and never talk about the gift I need help with. And so
Yeah.
being proactive in those kinds of things also will really help you build your confidence. But know at the end of the day, like, you're where you're supposed to be. And it might not be where you want to be. A first job might just pay your bills, and that's okay, but show up so freaking well and rock it. And know that like it's okay if it's not your dream and the dream can change and you can move on and change is okay. But show up anyway and like be confident in who you are in that role.
Yeah, I couldn't have said any of that better. I agree 1,000% on like just preparing yourself, whether it come to like managing up and doing those like agendas, or whether it be laying your outfit out or different things like that, like just preparing yourself mentally to like be able to actually handle the tasks at hand rather than have to worry about all of the little things. For me, that's meal prepping every Sunday night so that I don't have to cook the rest of the week, because darn it, guys, I love cooking, but I don't want to spend an hour plus doing it every single night. And so I am the queen of, people look at my fridge and they're like, "You're just eating leftovers all week." Yes. Yes, I am eating leftovers, quote unquote, all week, because guess what? I just want to cook on Sunday and not have to cook anymore, because I want to put my time and energy towards other things that help feed my confidence and help feed like me being ready for a task allows me to be confident in that task. If I show up unprepared or rushed or things like that, that's when I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not confident in my ability of like how this is going to turn out. But if I show up prepared, then I guarantee you like my level of confidence just went up like 20 notches.
Well, and like I can't stand leftovers, so I don't meal prep. Um, but I'm also the type of person I don't have the time to spend an hour every night in the kitchen. I
Yeah.
also live alone. I think a huge joy for me in the kitchen and cooking is the enjoyment other people get from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like super smart, and I tell myself, like, okay, Tyler, if you'll cook one meal and you can eat it leftover once, that's 2 nights. And then you can cheat and you can buy an HEB meal simple. I let myself eat a meal simple 2 times a week. And so then I really only have to cook one more night. But I also like, I'm going to eat an Uncrustable for lunch. I am
That's fair.
not below eating a bowl of cereal for dinner. Like, you'll make it work for you. But every week I'm intentional with, I go to the grocery store. My favorite time to go is Saturday at 8 p.m. because nobody's there. And I like make a menu for the week.
Yeah.
And like I know when I'm going to eat lunch with somebody during the week or a dinner, and I shout like, so it's just like it's one less thing for me to think about. So I'm not sitting in a meeting or at work going, what am I going to eat for dinner? I am so dang hungry, because I've been there and I've been just sitting in a meeting and my tummy is growling and I'm like, okay, any day now, I'm so ready to get home and eat dinner. you
Yes.
know, like I don't even have to question it. Like, you know what you're going to eat. It takes one thing out of the equation. I'm huge on convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Is the dry cleaners cheap? No, it's convenient and I pay for the convenience
Yeah.
because I'm not ironing my clothes. Like, I don't even own an ironing board.
Fair.
And
That's very valid.
not everyone's for that. When I lived in Fort Worth, I paid an outrageous amount for my gym membership, and my mom like yelled at me every month. Basically, she's like, "Why are you paying so much?" And it was one of those things, though. It held me so accountable
Yeah.
because it was like, okay, I pay to go 3 times a week. I'm going 3 times a week, whether that means I have to get up at 4 a.m. or I have to go at 10 p.m. I'm going to the class.
Yeah.
And so there's just things in your life you make the sacrifice for because they make sense in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to do it. And as you get older, your hopefully financial means grow. And there are things like my parents would never second guess the cleaners. Like they take their clothes to the cleaners. There was a time in my life when I was like, can I really afford the dry cleaners? Like,
Yep.
is that smart for me to spend $60 this week starching my pants when that's $60 a week is my grocery budget? Because
Mm-hmm.
luckily I get beef from my parents, so it's just like when I was 22, I was like, I want all the turquoise and I want the starch jeans. Girlfriend, I'm 25 and I still don't have it. Okay.
Yep.
I got the starch jeans and I don't have the jewelry collection I want. But when I'm 30, my collection's going to be bigger because I made sacrifices now. Managing your
Yes.
money is not fun. I pray I marry someone who loves to manage our money and I don't have to worry about it. But, it's just like as you grow up, you reevaluate things. I feel like I turned 25 last year. I'm fixing to be 26. And I was like, I really need to get my money in order this year. Like, I kind of just been living like, this is coming in, this is going out, okay. And I'm to
Yeah.
the point where I'm like, okay, like I paid off my car this year. I want to save X number. I want to maybe throw this much more in my 401k or investment. Like, you get to a point where you're like, oh, that kind of matters. Maybe I should think about it. Like,
Might need to figure this out.
yeah, so I have an older sister, and my sister, I just feel like she's really ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, She has worked in the company she's worked for 10 years. She started when she was 18, and she bought a house when she was like, I don't know, 23 or 24. And I'm like, buying a house is not even in the cards for me. Like, and I'm like, girl. And then she's like talking about like what she's investing in her retire, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But in 3 years, I'm going to be able to be in the place she's at,
Exactly.
And so that comes with time. Confidence, finances, it all is going to come with time too. The
Yes.
older you get, the more you realize nobody gives a crap and nobody remembers. And you're the only person going home stressing about the coffee that was on your shirt all day. Nobody else is
Amen.
thinking about it.
Amen, sister. I couldn't agree more on all of that, on all fronts. Like, at the end of the day, you are going to be your own biggest critic. So, like, give yourself a break sometimes too. Like, it's okay. I guarantee you maybe one person saw that coffee stain and it left their mind as quickly as it came in. Like, we spend
And
most of our time thinking about ourselves. So,
well, and even if they remember it, they're going to at least remember you.
exactly.
I literally
Exactly.
walked around with pancake on my shirt one day this week. Like I made pancakes at home and I dropped some and I didn't realize. And had like a kind of big meeting. Like my boss's boss was in it and I was like, oh well, at least he's gonna remember me if he like is thinking about the stain that was on my shirt. Oh well.
Oh well, who cares? It's fine. On that note, I would love to start to round out the podcast and ask you the same question that I ask every guest on this amazing podcast. Tyler, what is your one piece of advice that you would like to give to the next generation of agriculture?
Yeah, my go-to piece of advice is choose joy. Happiness is a feeling, and feelings are fleeting, but joy is a choice, and you get to choose every day whether you're going to be joyful about your situation or not. And you're the determining factor of that. And so I think even when life is hard and you've been dealt a bad hand, like there's something to be joyous about and thankful for, and you get to choose that. So I always just say choose joy. And if you're in the field of agriculture or going into the field of agriculture, it's hard. We all work
Yeah.
hard. I work a full-time job and I help my family on the ranch when I can. And I think I spend all my other hours advocating for agriculture, and sometimes it can be thankless, but I'm joyful that I get to do it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so glad that God called me, of all people, this girl from Bracketville, Texas, to share our message and to
Mm-hmm.
connect with producers and consumers. And it's an awesome opportunity. And I work into the wee hours of the night to get resumes out the door or put a speech together. Like, I'm so joyful that person chose me to do business with or
Yeah.
chose me to be the speaker for their event. And so you can be down and complain or you can choose joy. And if you're in our industry, you've got a long road ahead and it's going to have challenges, but there's great people, great reward, and you're going to get to choose how you look at the situation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Tyler, that hit home so good. I love that piece of advice because there are so many things in our lives that we can control and so many that are completely out of our control. And choosing joy is something that you can control and that you can look at your life and you may be like, well, we're on the hot mess train express today, but we're going to choose to be happy about it and we're going to choose joy and everything like that. So thank you so much for sharing that piece of advice. Tyler, where can the people find you if they are as in love with everything that you said today as I am and just want more of Tyler? Where can they find you? Where can they follow along? Anything like that? If they're college students needing mentorship help, tell us about everything you got going on and where they can find all of the things.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty findable on the interweb.
Yes.
So I have a website. It's tylerkschuster.com. My personal Instagram is at Tyler_Kelsey. And then my LinkedIn and my Facebook are Tyler K. Schuster. If you look them up, you'll find me. And my TikTok is Tyler K. Schuster as well. But if you just Google Tyler K. Schuster, or you go to my website, I link to all my things. My podcast stuff is all at Basically Famous Podcasts, and I'm everywhere. And I have enjoyed this so much. If you are a college student listening to this and you will email me that you listened and found me from here, I'd be happy to review your resume and provide some feedback free of cost. just as a thanks for
That's amazing,
listening and
Tyler.
being a supporter. So go find me if you want some resume help. I have a little contact form put in here that you listen to this podcast, and I'll get you taken care of.
Ah, yes. Thank you so much, Tyler. That is such a blessing, I know, for so many people. And all the things, guys, I will have every single thing that Tyler talked about linked down below in the show notes. So make sure you go scroll through all of those, and I will have every single one of her links down below where you can go find her, all of the things. And make sure you go follow along on Tyler's life and just be another person cheering her on. And hopefully, like, just send her any DMs, any questions that you have, any advice that you need. Her DMs are always open, and so are mine. So, Tyler, again, thank you so much for coming on. I so appreciate your time today and all of your advice and everything like that. And to all the listeners out there, thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Next Generation. We will catch y'all next time. See ya.